Hey gang, Ross Brand here for Ross and Nez. We head into part 2 of our 2-part interview with Leslie Nance. In part 1, we learned about her personal story, overcoming cancer, and how that inspired her to do the work that she does, helping other people stay healthy through their kitchens and live streaming as well. And now we get into talking about how she went on to do a radio show, adding that to her repertoire of content that she produces, as well as working with brands, finding sponsors, and monetizing as a business. Here it is, part 2 with 2017 Periscoper of the Year finalist Leslie Nance. Here's episode 17 of the Ross and Nez live stream experience. Let's get into the broadcasting side of things. Talk about how you've really like exploded on the scene, right? Like, and it's been a lot of hard work and everything, but I mean, I mean, people work years in order to get a radio show, in order to get sponsors and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how you've gone about doing that and what it's meant to your business and your broadcasts?
Yeah, so we started out with a blog, and I'm an okay writer, but I'm not a great writer. In fact, I just hired a copywriter that's so much better than me. She's so good. And I'm like, oh my God, you're wonderful and I suck. And anyway, and she's great. So I recognized my weakness and I hired somebody to do the job that I didn't mind doing it. I actually kind of liked doing it, but I'm not good at it. And she's great at it. And so it's amazing to have her. And so, but it started out as a blog, and I'm a dyslexic, and that's why it's more difficult for me, because I say things and they come out in a sentence and it's very like narrative, like I'm talking to you, and it's not readable. And so she's really good at making it readable. Anyway, so I started off with that, a GoPro on my head, a YouTube channel. You were never going to see me ever. You were never going to see my face. You were only ever going to see my hands, because I was actually quite camera shy, believe it or not.
Wow.
But you were only going to see my hands, and I had a GoPro on a head thing and looking down at my counter, and you can still see those videos. They're still on YouTube. And that's why my email is talktothehands@GoToKitchens, because you were only going to see my hands.
Oh, nice.
And so,
clever.
yeah. And so, and I was going to make food and teach you how to do it and talk to you and whatever. And so
this could be a method you could adopt. And
Ross has one. I think Ross has one called Talk to the Toes. I think
yes, I'm going to send you a GoPro.
Don't you have like a foot art channel or something, Ross? You schmuck.
Oh my God, I can't handle this negativity.
No, it's all out of love. This is all out of love. It's because I love Ross so much.
Yes. Let's not get all sappy. Leslie,
do you still, Leslie, I love how you said blog. Do you still recommend people to, because I know I'm sure you're well aware that live video, and all these types of content strategies seem to get the spotlight. But I think a lot of people, and I'd love for our audience, especially people listening to the podcast, a lot of these, individuals and our audience members are still kind of wondering, what are the top content strategies? Do you still recommend, I think blogging's kind of gone a little bit under the radar. Do you still recommend starting out with a blog or even blogging in general? Uh-oh.
I mean, so you made this amazing connection, right? Like they watched your live stream and they're like, oh my God, I freaking love this person. Where do you send them to learn more? I mean, because I'm giving you weapons, right? We're not talking about, I'm giving you some tool, but I'm giving you weapons against bad health. And so I have to send you somewhere to get more information. And so if I'm not, people are saying, oh, email lists are dead. I call BS on that too. But all of those tools, it's not that tools go away, right? It's not that blogging or emails or any of those things ever go away. We just add things to make people more attracted to those things.
Well said.
Right?
I like the way you said
and
that.
So my live streams are the hook. That's where you find me. That's where you're like, oh, I like this girl. I like the way she does things and her recipes are great. And for whatever reason, then you go and you find the blog and you start reading about me and you start reading the recipes, and every recipe has a little write-up with it that talks about why we eat this particular food. And so, but where are you going to send people to find more about you if you don't at least have a 2 or 3 page website that tells them who you are and what you're about? And, because you can't
further enhances the narrative of who you are. I love that.
And
Yep.
it solidifies that connection to them. You
Yes.
know, then they can sign up for email. Then they can get another personal touch in a Facebook group or, you know, whatever. And so they get all these little touch points where they feel connected to you. And that's always been my goal. For the first 2 years of business, I worked on only social credibility. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about, you know, getting, you know, big sponsors. I didn't think about any of that. I only thought about my community and
Nice.
growing that community and finding out what their hot buttons were and actually freaking listening to them. Not like, oh, that's really nice. Thank you, you know, so-and-so for that, whatever, but going, wow, they really do have a concern about this. How does Go-To Kitchens address that? Not telling them what they want to hear, but telling them what I know about the subject is because that's what they want. They already know some things because they're curious about it. What do they want to know? And so I worked on that for 2 solid years and it was grueling. I mean, it still is. It was grueling. And you guys say, you know, exploded onto the scene. I'm like, really? Because I have a lot of gray hair from that first 2 years of doing this.
It's
But
exploded. It's exploded after years and years of grinding it out and really working, putting in hard work.
Yeah.
Everybody only sees the result. They don't see they don't see the hard work that goes up to it.
Yeah. And I never wanted to be a unicorn. I never wanted to like juggernaut. And at one point I thought, and Ross knows Ross actually knows a lot because I was like, Ross, what do I do? She got like 35 Facebook messages from me one morning, like, oh my God. I don't know what to do. And so, so Ross has been a sounding board for me. But, you know, at one point I thought that there was a possibility that we would juggernaut, like we would fly onto the scene and we'd be like, ta-da, here we are, you know. But then when I realized that those flames burn out really quickly, that people that they don't have that community structure to support them, that foundation of that community, then I began to think, I don't want that. In fact, I would turn my back on opportunities that I thought would do that because I don't want to be a flash in the pan. Oh, get it? It's like a cooking reference.
Right.
I didn't want to.
Wow. Are you never not branding? I love you.
But I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be something that was around like for a long time. And I wanted people to feel like they knew me, and they do, and that they have a relationship with me, and that if we hung out, that you wouldn't get anything different, that you'd just be the same girl that you see on camera. So that's very important to me. Very, very important to me.
I think
you're not going to forget about Ross and Nez when you go on like Oprah Winfrey and you get on like, you know,
no, in fact,
Conan O'Brien show. You're not going to act like, who's Ross and Nez? Who are you again? Huh? What's your name?
I'll say. Do you guys know Ross and Nez?
And the second thing you say is because you should, and check them out at rossandnez.com/iTunes and listen to the podcast.
Everything I know.
Fantastic. Quick learner. So, you know, last year was an amazing year for you. Periscoper of the Year finalist, and then you started the radio show, which you seem like you're having a blast with, and it's going great. Talk about, like, okay, as these things came along, where in the process did you start reaching out to brands, or did brands start reaching out to you? How did you go about monetizing your broadcasts?
Well, I always say that, you know, being an entrepreneur is a series of ideas, right? So you have a series of ideas that happen in your head, and hopefully they're in a good sequence. Not always, but hopefully they're in a good sequence.
A realistic sequence,
of what comes next. And so I had a goal. I mean, I have a 5-year goal. I'm 2.5 years into my 5 because oh my God, I'm halfway there. Okay, anyway, sorry.
We won't go there.
I know, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's kind of scary, but
it's going fast.
A lot needs to happen in the next 2.5 years to get that. But I said going into my first 2 years, we're going to be all about building a social network, getting a community, you know, finding super fans. Like I heard Gary Vee say one time, you need 1,000 super fans. And I was like, I'm doing that. I'm getting us out, you know, so that's what I was doing. I was all Gary Vee in it. I'm like, I'm getting 1,000 super fans, dang it. So I worked really hard to get these, you know, 1,000 or plus now people that are super fans that will follow me anywhere, that if I get voted in for something, that they'll vote the heck out of it. I mean, you know, that will just do and be the wheels that get other people involved into the community. And so worked really hard for that. So I always said third year was my money year. And so we come up on third year, and I mean, it's coming up fast. I mean, just a few months ago, actually. And I'm like, this is money year. What do you do? And so I went to a food conference, and I was a speaker there about live streaming. And last year was a nutcase person going all over the country talking about live streaming to mostly food people. This is how you do it. And then one day I realized, wait a second, you're teaching all these food people how to do what you do. What are you doing? Stupid, #stupid. So I quit doing that. And I've been invited back to all these conferences again this year. And I'm like, I'm not going. No. So anyway, so I decided that at this conference, I was meeting with brands, because this was about connecting food bloggers, like recipe developers and photographers. And I'm okay at all that stuff, but I'm not great at it. But I am great at live streaming, and I do know that. And so I started talking to brands at this conference, and they're like, really, you're live streaming? That's very interesting. Well, we don't do anything with live streaming, but thank you. Have a good day. And I'm like, So I started giving away a lot of free stuff to brands. So tons of marketing. So I started saturating. I have a list that is taped. I can't show you because it's taped on my desk here, of brands that I wanted to go after. And so every time I used their product, I tagged them. I tagged them in my live stream. I tagged them on Twitter, and it seems so simple, but I tagged them, and I gave them a lot of free publicity. And people say, well, if you give too much free, then they're not going to pay you to do it. BS. That's total BS. And so then I began to build a relationship. They started sending me emails. Hey, we saw your thing, and we really like what you're doing, and tell us more about what you do. And we have a new product. Would you like to help us support that? And so it just kind of started tumbling in to me, but also doing a lot of relationship building with the people, with the brands that I was interested in. And I only have 5. I had 5 on my list that I was going after. And I'm happy to tell you that I have all 5. You think, oh, you're going to get 3 out of that 5. I have all 5 that sponsor my show. And so because I built this relationship with them, and because they can trust me to not be an idiot on camera, and I know their brand almost as well as I know my brand, and so I can talk about them backwards and forwards. I can be an ambassador for them in a way that's really authentic for people that want to buy their product. And they can share my content, and they're like, hey, look what this really cool food blogger is doing. She loves us. You love us, right? Because she loves us. And so, it's been an amazing thing. And so I just signed my first long-term contract with a brand a couple of weeks ago.
Nice.
And
congratulations.
And I have a couple more that are long-term. They started out kind of short-term because they weren't sure about that whole live streaming thing. And so it's been pretty amazing. And I have sky's the limit. I mean, hello, I work in a kitchen. Think of all the products that you can, the kitchen cabinet makers. I'm like, look at these lovely handles on my door, and here's a whole blog post about why you should have pretty handles on. No, I don't do that.
Right.
I refuse to sell myself out. I've had a couple of brands approach me that I don't like them. I don't like their stuff. And I'm like, no, sorry, your food's not clean enough. I had an ice cream company approach me. They begged me to be part of their social media influencer program. And I was like, no, because your product's not clean enough for my audience. So I won't compromise either. So yeah, it's been interesting. And so it's been the money year. I mean, we're, halfway through the money year right now, and we're making money, and I can afford to hire people and buy new equipment, and, it's great. So.
Wow.
That's awesome. Do you think that, let me ask you this, Leslie, do you think that most people, I love what you said, that you won't, because people consider like selling out, like, oh, you're selling out, you're making money with your content. Well, no, I'm actually running a business, right?
Yeah.
But I love what you said, choosing and selecting the right, company, organization to partner with. How important do you think that is? Because I know a lot of people, I mean, we see it every single day. Like make $1 million today, or hey, here's how you learn how to make $100 a day using Instagram, or here, make $1 million in your first week.
When those people show me their bank account, then I will believe that. But
I love that. Oh, that's good.
When you show me your bank account, like a screenshot of your statement, and you're actually making that much money. Mia Voss said, and at Social Media Day Denver last year, she was doing this whole like, you know, how to not be an asshat in business and stuff. And she said, there are so many people that are incredibly popular and flat ass broke. And I'm like, oh my God, I know those people. I mean, you know, you look at them and you watch them, right? You look at them and you watch them and you're like, wow, they got all their stuff together, you know, and they're so consistent that they must be getting paid, because nobody in their right mind would show up every single day, 4 times a day, and not being paid. But then you find out that they're not being paid, like, you know, and so, but they're really popular. Yeah. And that's not how we do. That's not that you don't have a business, you have a hobby at that point. And so I have to have a business. And because I try to keep my content free for my audience, 98% of my content is absolutely free to my community. It has to be paid for somehow. So we use those brands, and my audience understands this. We use those brands to pay for that. It's just like watching TV and having a TV commercial. It's like buying a Vegemin, you know?
No, I love it.
One of the things, you know, we've tried to do with the show is distribute our content in different formats, whether it's on YouTube, it's a podcast, we go live, right? And so that's all within the online space, right? You've decided to go into traditional radio and do a show, which then is repurposed as a podcast, and it's streamed live on the site, and you have, you know, a camera, so you're live streaming it too. So you're marrying the two worlds. But with these different platforms constantly changing their algorithms, and you know, you're not knowing where stuff is going to show up and everything else, how important is it, and how helpful has it been to you to put yourself out there in another medium by adding the radio show to your different assets?
Well, you know, radio is so old school, and I was really nervous about doing it because how do I translate? You know, I mean, I'm a on camera personality. I went from being the hands to actually being in front of a camera. And it's, how do I translate? Because there's no, you know, I have to be smart, and the cute part doesn't even like factor in. How does that happen? You know? And so I was trying to figure out, I just totally, whatever. Anyway. Okay. So, but how does that factor, you know, how does that work together? And so, it was really difficult. In fact, Rossi gave me one of my best piece of advices. And I actually was on the John Lee Dumas show like a couple of months ago. And he said, what's the best thing somebody said? You know, what's the best piece of advice you've received lately? And it's something you said to me, was just because the stage has changed doesn't mean that you do. Just because you're on a different stage doesn't mean that you're a different, your personality is different. And that, like, I was like,
Ross, you said that?
Can you believe it?
I know. It was so smart and put me at complete ease for radio. But, you know, it's funny because it's like starting a whole new business all over again. I mean, except radio, I mean, the station has organic listeners that they already have. And so, yeah, but it's been something completely different, but very popular for making money.
Excellent.
Yeah,
congratulations. That's really
cool.
That's
you
awesome.
Pull in sponsors because they get, you know, they bring their experts into our show. We interview their experts. But we interview their experts. They get a recorded podcast that they can reshare out. Plus, it's on a radio station, you know, and it's 1310 KFKA. I mean, it's not like, you know, I mean, it's something. It feels like
It's
something
real.
bigger.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun, and and I love delivering content there. I mean, I have a lot of people that don't watch me anywhere else, and they just do the radio show, and vice versa. I have a lot of people that only look at my Facebook page and don't see me anywhere. Like, they're like, oh, we didn't know you had a cooking show. And I'm like, are you freaking serious right now? I mean, yeah. So putting all the pieces together of the puzzle is hard to figure. And I'm still working on that. How do I get everybody to know all the places that I am? So, yeah. But
so now you know why I said doing the radio show was a no-brainer, right?
I know. Yeah, you did. And I was like, boy, I don't know. And you're like, are you kidding me right now? What are you thinking? So,
because you're signaling to brands and to customers, to anybody that you would deal with, that the gatekeepers have let you in now, right? Like, because live streaming, blogging, websites, going into business, all that is your own hustle. and that's great. But now somebody who's paid to sit in a chair and go, we determine who goes on the station and who doesn't, has said, we want you on our station. We're going to pay you to do a show. And now all of a sudden brands are like, wow, that's a whole nother level, right? And so if they can trust what you're going to say and they like what you're going to say and they're willing to commit to it and promote it and all that, it's like another level of I mean, live streaming is where you made it, right? But this is like just a confirmation. It's like a certificate that says I graduated from live streaming school and I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever comes up, right? Yeah. Like I can work with anybody in any platform, and I think it's been amazing. And the other thing is your husband's a revelation. Who knew how good he was? I
know he's. It's funny because I was like, I don't know if I should do this. And he was like, we're doing it. I don't even care what. I was like, what do you mean?
With or without you?
What do you mean we're doing it? And he's like, because I'm going to be on the show with you. And I'm like, doing what? Because he's not in the health and wellness space. I'm like, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm the color. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm the color. He's like, think about it this way. I'm your Ed McMahon to Johnny Carson. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm old enough to know what that means.
So he just sits there, collects a check, and doesn't really do anything?
No, he's the color. He's so funny. I mean, he's funny and he's very intuitive. Like he's really a good interviewer. And the great thing about him is this is a perfect example. On Saturday, we had somebody from Natural Grocers and she's like, MCT oils and they are bioavailable, blah, blah, blah. And Rob was like, hold up, wait a minute. What is an MCT oil? But that is necessary because we have to get down. But for me, I'm like, oh, I know what that is. And I don't think to ask that question. So it's such a nice balance of, knowing and maybe not knowing, and then, but letting her explain so that the audience knows what we're talking about. And so it was, it was great.
I'm sort of the color for this show. Don't you think so, Ross? I'm the color.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I love how Leslie goes out of her way to label her husband as the sidekick. And, I do that in my head with you,
he was the one who initiated
it. He's hashtag sidekick.
I don't say that publicly, but, Nez is the sidekick. Would you like to ask?
Actually, he's the one that named himself. I was saying co-host, and he's like, I don't like that. That's demeaning. I don't want to be a co-host. And I'm like, what do you mean it's demeaning? He's like, no. I want to be the sidekick. And I was like,
I'm happy to be the sidekick. Yeah.
No. I mean, a co-host is great, but you know what? It's your brand, and kind of like he's kind of the voice of the listener, like you said, right?
Exactly.
He's kind of the voice of the fan and the person who's learning, and
he's on their side.
I think it works well because I've heard, like husband and wife couples doing a show and it becomes so corny and like removed from the topic and like inside jokes and whatever. And you guys really do it like it's really professional how you guys do it.
He would like for it to be like that. And I'm like,
right.
We did a Christmas show that was totally nutty. We did a Christmas show that was hilarious. We had so much, we were just being total, it was like schizophrenic. We were all over the place. We had so much fun. He's like, why can't every show be like that? I'm like, because we're delivering content. And if you want it to be paid for, you can't do that every show. But we do let our hair down every once in a while and have a little bit of fun. But it's interesting. I didn't know, I was so nervous about doing it. Now I can't imagine not doing it. Like it's such a part of the brand now. And, a lot of people wanted me to call it like Go To Kitchens Radio or something like that. But we actually gave it its own identity and its own brand because of thinking in the future that it could become, it's possible that it could actually become bigger than Go To Kitchens. It has that potential with syndications and, something that could be bigger than we even, and I can't talk too much about that right now, but bigger than we even thought it might be. And we're like 4 months into this thing.
So it could become a network, and like Ross and Nez could be doing How to Be Unhealthy show.
The opposite.
What not to do? Watch the Ross and Nez.
We'd only have one episode. Just follow Ross's diet plan. Ross and Nez's diet plan. Just follow in our footsteps if you want to be unhealthy.
Episode 1: Cheetos are not a food group.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, that's good.
For life.
Leslie, it's been so amazing chatting with you. We both had a great time. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we wrap up, real quick, can you give people like 2 or 3 tips that they can do right now to be healthier today?
Oh, I thought you were going to say live streaming. You threw a curveball at me.
Do both. Do both.
I gotta keep you honest. I gotta keep you honest. You're getting too big.
To be healthy.
You're bigger than live streaming now.
Oh, please, whatever. Yeah, not bigger. So let's see. Water, make sure you're drinking enough water, half your body weight in ounces every single day. Move your body once a day, 20 minutes of purposeful, mindful exercise, just a walk outside, 20 minutes a day reduces your cancer risk by 50%. So something simple you can do. And then focus on eating more vegetables. If you think you're eating enough vegetables, double it, because you're not. So, double eating more let's just say plants, not even vegetables, but legumes and seeds and nuts and all those things. Double whatever it is that you're eating today. And that will actually eventually cut out some of the other things, because you'll be full and you're not going to want those other things, because your body's like, I don't need anything else, but thank you. Eventually that will help you reduce other things in your life. And within 2 to 3 weeks, most people see a huge change just by doubling their plant intake throughout the week. So those 3 things would be top priority, in my opinion. If you came to me and said, I need help, those are the 3 questions I'd ask you. Are you exercising? How much water do you drink? And how many plants do you eat? So,
and where can people find Fork It Over Radio and Go-To Kitchens?
So Fork It Over Radio does have a very measly little website at forkitoverradio.com. All social media at Fork It Over Radio. And our iTunes, we would love it if you subscribe there. We're looking for our first 100 reviews and our first 100 subscribers right now. But it's not Fork It Over Radio. I need to get the station to change it because they control that and I don't. But it's Fork It Over. So on iTunes at Fork It Over, you can find it there. It's a black and teal logo. It's not like Fork It Over Boise or whatever the other one is.
I didn't know there was a subset.
So yeah, we already are syndicate. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
So Fork It Over Radio there. And then of course my main website is Go-To Kitchens, and all social media at Go-To Kitchens, GO2 Kitchens. Hold on, one more plug and then I promise I'm done. Tuesday through Friday.
This one will cost.
Tuesday through Friday, I do a live show called Lunch with Leslie. It's on Periscope and Facebook at at Go-To Kitchens. So you can find me there. It's at 2:00 Eastern time.
Our first fart noise on the show.
Yeah.
I never.
You can't talk about health without talking about farting. So
I never expected Leslie.
Well, in that case, we really got something cooking now, Ross.
I know.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been a blast, Leslie.
You rock,
Thanks,
Leslie.
Thanks
Absolute
for having
honor.
me, guys. It was a lot of fun.
And that wraps up our 2-part interview with Leslie Nance. Thanks to Leslie. You can find out more about Leslie at gotokitchens.com and forkitoverradio.com. For Professor Nez, it's Ross Brand. Thanks again to Leslie for joining us for this extended interview, and we'll see you next time on the Ross and Nez live stream experience. Take care, everybody.